The Galactic Council had seen many species rise to interstellar capability over the millennia. The Zephyrians with their crystalline logic, the Vorthan Empire with their disciplined militarism, the peaceful Ilari who solved conflicts through meditation. Each had followed the established protocols when entering the greater galactic community. Each had respected the ancient rules that governed civilized space. Then came the humans. Ambassador Kexithara of the Zephyrian Collective watched, in growing alarm as the latest reports flooded her neural implants. The humans had been granted provisional membership to the Galactic Council only 6 standard cycles ago, after demonstrating faster-than-light capability and basic diplomatic protocols. It should have been a routine integration, like the 847, species that had come before them. Instead, it had become the most chaotic period in recorded galactic history. They've done what now? Kexithara's crystalline features flickered with disbelief as she processed the latest incident report. Her aide, a young Zephyrian named Veltar, consulted his datapad with visible nervousness. The human vessel Absolute Unit has successfully completed a supply run through the Maelstrom Nebula, Ambassador. They delivered medical supplies to the Outer Rim colonies in 14 standard hours. That's impossible, Kexithara stated flatly. The Maelstrom Nebula has been designated as an absolute no-fly zone for 3,000 years. The gravitational anomalies and radiation storms make it utterly impassable. Yes, Ambassador. That's what we told them. And they asked if that was a challenge. Kexithara felt her crystalline structure vibrate with frustration, the Zephyrian equivalent of a migraine. This was just the latest in a series of incidents that had the entire Galactic Council in uproar. First, there had been the trade route incident. For millennia, cargo ships had followed the established hyperlane corridors, carefully mapped safe, passages that avoided stellar hazards and territorial disputes. The journey from the core worlds to the Outer Rim took 43 standard days via the approved routes. The humans had looked at this system and declared it inefficient. Within a month, human cargo haulers were cutting directly through previously avoided sectors, somehow navigating asteroid fields that had been considered absolute barriers, and completing the same journey in 12 days. When asked how they managed this seemingly impossible feat, the human captain had shrugged and said, "We just went around the scary bits. Also, Jenkins figured out you can slingshot off those black holes if you hit the approach angle just right." The Insurance Guild was still processing the existential crisis this had caused. Then came the diplomatic revolution. Galactic law had always been clear. Territorial disputes were to be resolved through the formal arbitration process, which typically took several years and involved extensive documentation, precedent review, and careful consideration of all cultural factors. The humans had ended a 3-century border dispute between the Korthak clans and the Selenite Confederacy in 4 hours. Their solution had been elegant in its simplicity. They suggested both sides just talk it out like adults over something called beer pong. The resulting agreement had not only resolved the original territorial dispute, but had somehow led to a thriving interspecies sports league and a joint colonial venture. The Department of Xenocultural Relations was still trying to figure out what had happened. But it was the latest incident that truly had the Council in panic. The Void Wraiths, an ancient menace that emerged from dark space every few centuries to terrorize the galaxy, had returned ahead of schedule. For 2,000 years, the standard protocol had been the same: evacuate border worlds, consolidate defensive fleets, and prepare for a grinding campaign of attrition that typically lasted decades. The humans had taken one look at this time-tested strategy and declared it boring. "Ambassador," Veltar continued, his voice trembling slightly, "the human fleet has not only engaged the Void Wraiths directly, but they've somehow befriended them." "They've what?" "According to the latest transmission from Admiral Sarah Chen, the Void Wraiths were apparently just really bad at expressing their feelings and needed someone to listen. The humans have established something called a therapy circle, and the Void Wraiths are now requesting to join the Galactic Council. As a member species?" Kexathara's crystalline form began to flicker rapidly. "This violates approximately 47 different sections of the Galactic Code. The Void Wraiths are classified as a Class Thatu existential threat. They cannot simply be talked to." "Yes, Ambassador." The humans asked why not. "Because they're incomprehensible entities of pure malevolence from the spaces between stars." The humans suggested that maybe they just needed better PR. The council chamber erupted in chaos as representatives from hundreds of species tried to process this information. The Vorthon delegation was demanding an immediate review of human membership status. The Alari were attempting to meditate themselves into a state where this all made sense. The crystalline hegemony had actually crashed 3 processing nodes trying to calculate the probability of these events. Through it all, the human representative, Ambassador Maria Santos, sat calmly in her chair, occasionally sipping from a container, labeled World's #1 Ambassador. When the chaos finally died down, the Council's ancient AI moderator, Axiom 7, activated its speakers with a sound like digital despair. Ambassador Santos, Axiom 7 intoned, "Your species has been part of this Council for exactly 6.3 standard cycles. In that time, you have invalidated 17 different sections of space law, revolutionized 3 major industries, ended conflicts that had persisted for centuries, and somehow made friends with our greatest enemies. How do you explain this?" "Ambassador." Santos stood up slowly, straightened her jacket, and smiled. "Well, Axiom 7, we looked at all your rules and procedures, and we asked ourselves one simple question. But what if we tried something different?" The silence that followed was profound. "Additionally," Santos continued, "we've noticed that most of your impossible problems seem to have pretty obvious solutions once you stop assuming they're impossible. Also, Jenkins has some ideas about optimizing your quantum computational matrices if you're interested." Axiom 7's processors hummed for several long minutes. Finally, the AI spoke again. "The Council will take a brief recess to recalibrate our fundamental assumptions about reality." As the chamber emptied, Kexathara remained in her seat, staring at the human ambassador. "Your species is going to completely upend our entire civilization, aren't you?" Santos grinned. "Ambassador, we're just getting started." Outside the council chambers, the galaxy continued to spin, but somehow it felt different now. The ancient, immutable laws that had governed civilized space for millennia were beginning to seem less like universal constants and more like suggestions. And in the depths of space, other young species that had been watching from the shadows began to wonder if the humans could break all the rules and somehow make everything better. What rules were they breaking unnecessarily? The age of human innovation had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.